concept of personality is carries a lot of weight or does a lot of heavy lifting in psychology. It's a concept that many people refer to in folk psychological explanations, and it is a source of a lot of debate and conversation in psychology. So it's only fitting that we talk a little bit about what it is. Um, the first thing we need to talk about is because is that return to an issue of hypothetical constructs. Hypothetical constructs are explanatory concepts in psychology that are not directly observable. Okay, these are things like intelligence and motivation, um, and we tend to throw psychology, personality into this pod as well. That it's a hypothetical construct that we think helps explain behavior, explain what people do, but we can't directly observe it. We say things like she does well in class because she is intelligent. He has a lot of friends because he is outgoing. But we can't directly observe intelligence. We see people behaving intelligently. We see people behaving in ways that are outgoing. And we might even say has an outgoing personality. But these are descriptions of behavior that is it's a problem that to explain outgoing personality, or because he has a lot of friends with an outgoing personality. Um, and this is an interesting chapter because I think it foreshadows a lot of the discussion we're going to have in the next unit about attributions, and that is to what we do. We cite the causes of behavior. When we observe somebody doing something, well, what do we say causes their behavior? That's the question of attributions. What do we attribute the causes of their behavior to? And in social psychology, that's been an important conversation, an important source of research. So this foreshadows, I think, a little bit some of the problems that we're going to have with attribution theory in the next unit. But to continue, personality is a construct that we use to understand why people do what they do, and we can't directly observe a personality. We don't. It's not something that we can have a blood test for example. We can't go in with a microscope and look at problems in a brain or an EEG or an fMRI and say that personality type is here and not there. What we do observe is we do observe behavior. We observe things like kids, students getting A's, answering questions in class competently. We observe people saying hi to many people or sitting with a bunch of people at lunch. So we might say that the person that we see getting A's and answering questions competently in class is intelligent. We might say that a person that has a lot of friends, that sits with a lot of people at lunch, that says greets a lot of people, a lot of different people, is an outgoing person. So we use personality as an explanation, but the question of where does this come from, where does personality come from, is a really important question. And there's lots of theories about this. The nature-based theories, if you will, there's not much there. We are starting to do some studies on the genetics, and there seems to be some heritable features, if you will, of personality types, and maybe they're based in temperament um, and stuff like that from our old developmental chapter. But the main focus of personality theories is focused on nurture, on learning. And Freud's theories, the psychodynamic, psychoanalytic theories, focused on very early experience and hidden unconscious forces that emerge during a lifetime. Now, some of this is nature, some of this is nurture. Who, which one is which in Freud? Who knows? Skinner obviously focused on learning, as did Bandura. Albert Bandura focused on social learning and this concept of reciprocal determinism. Now, the main issue I had with this chapter is, and it was pretty straightforward in terms of different theories of personality and this, that, and the other thing, is that many of these theories are not testable. Many of these theories are predictive, and they're intuitive, and they sound good, but when it comes to actually doing an experiment demonstrating the effects of this, that, or the other thing on this, that, or the other thing, even it is highly questionable. For example, when we talk about the issue of repression, So repression is a defense mechanism when we hide in our unconscious experiences or memories that we don't like. People might say, "Yeah, that sounds like what happened to me or happened to somebody else." I know they were repressed memories, but as we know from our conversation earlier in earlier chapters on memory, even our memories, even our long-term memories, there are errors in them. There are mistakes. They're not well encoded. In fact, some of them can be absolutely false. They can be made up. We read issues on false memories. Elizabeth Loftus has done a lot of research on things like false memories, implanted memories. So when we supposedly uncover or recover a repressed memory, how do we know that the memory is even real to begin with? That's the big question about these things. So they're not really testable hypotheses. And there's not a lot of evidence that Freud, for example, had a lot of insight into our life. In fact, what I think is Freud was picked up by popular press, by the popular literature, by writers, by authors, and various things. And we now talk about these terms as if they're real. We talk about things like repression. We talk about defense mechanisms, and they sound sort of good, but there's little or no evidence for the existence of these things. But I was especially concerned about your book's treatment of how we learn and what personality is in that context. The book was really hard on B.F. Skinner, and proposes that the alternative to Skinner is something called reciprocal determinism, and that is that environment determines behavior. Yes, they acknowledge that, and so does Bandura, but the behavior determines the environment. The environment changes when we behave our behavior. And I'd just like to draw your attention to a quote from 1957 by B.F. Skinner that says, "Men act upon the world and change it, and are changed in turn by the consequences of their actions." The first thing that's going on is men act upon the world. Men act upon the world and change it. So behavior determines the world. And the changes feed back into that particular person and change what they do in the future. This is the essence of operant conditioning, and I think it's analogous to reciprocal determinism. I think that the quotes from the book are that there are many situational factors, environmental factors that we fail to acknowledge, we fail to see. This quote about the dehumanizing nature of behaviorist theories drives me nuts, drives me absolutely crazy, because to say that the environment strongly influences what you do is absolutely a fact. And we're going to see, again, there's more foreshadowing here. We're going to see the fundamental attribution error is an essential part of social psychology, is not recognized in this chapter. Situational factors have proven time and time again to be more powerful determinants of behavior than commonly assumed, than personality, than temperament, than all of these things. So I, pause at these sorts of statements that behaviorism is dehumanizing because it denies free will. Well, whether you deny free will or not doesn't have anything to do with behaviorism, because countless philosophers, scientists, and writers have suggested that free will is an illusion, including numerous non-behavioral psychologists. So why do behaviorists get the brunt of this? Why do they continue to get called dehumanizing effects because they deny free will when half of the intellectual community does as well? What behaviorists see people is a unique set of genes and experiences. And that's not dehumanizing. Just because our behavior may be determined isn't dehumanizing. I don't think at all. And the other thing that drives me crazy is that how is it that claims that men want to have sex with their mother, which is the essence of the Oedipal complex, and that young women are in a rivalry with their mother for their father's attention? This is the Electra complex, and that women want that women are born deficient and desire a penis. How are those humanizing? Those aren't humanizing, those are dehumanizing. I think the real dehumanizing elements in psychology are Freudian, psychoanalytic, and psychodynamic. They're not behaviorists at all. In fact, I think behaviorists identify things that we can actually change to make the world better.